They Look Like People is a psychological thriller disguised as a horror film. It's a very micro-budget film with only a cast of like 4 or 5 people, and it's about Wyatt. He is a man with mental health issues who has voices in his head that tell him, they call him on the phone and tell him that everyone else is going to be infected by people. Or not people, by a sort of virus-like entity that takes over people and then makes them into monsters, basically. And no one else knows except for him. He has a psychiatrist that he talks to. He's on medications all the time, but he ends up bumping into Christian, an old friend of his who also has mental health issues. So Christian invites him to stay over because he's trying to be a good friend. However, he also wants to ask out his boss, and that doesn't go quite well, but you know, they sort of form a bond because they're friends, and it's basically about like trying to be there for someone when they're not all there. However, the movie has a creepy tone because it's trying to be a horror movie, but it's actually more of a psychological drama. The chemistry between the leads is really good. Acting-wise, everyone does great in the movie, even though it's got like a 0 budget. Literally, it's just like 2 locations, 3 people, but it's very compelling and tension-filled. If I had to describe the movie, it's almost like there's a movie called Patch Adams, and in that movie there's a patient who can't pee because he's afraid of invisible squirrels. So Robin Williams' character pretends to hold an invisible gun and shoot them all so that his his friend can go pee finally. So it's kind of like that, but what if your friend had a way more dangerous delusion, like they think they're a vampire or something? That's not the plot of this movie, but like if your friend all of a sudden like we're convinced they're a vampire and tries to bite people in public, that would be a really big problem. Would you indulge them in their fantasy, or would you try to get them help? That's kind of like one of the big questions of this, and it gets really intense at the end there. But overall, it's a pretty solid movie for what it is. It's very low budget, micro budget, no budget film, but it manages to elevate it with a decent script, good chemistry and acting, and tension. But it shouldn't have tried to market itself as a horror film. It's not very scary. It's more of a psychological thriller. So I give They Look Like People a 6 out of 10.